Burn City Suns talk. Brendan and Damian. Like 18 on the run, the way you containing them. All the latest from coming to the Suns. Inside information and getting it done. For Phoenix Sports, they #1. Kinda like Booker, yeah, they on the rise. Come and see, it's all things Phoenix. Burn City Suns talk, we going live.
Welcome to episode 2 of Burn City Suns Talk. I'm Damian Adams here with Brendan Mao, coming to you live from AZ Pod Studios. Now, Brendan, can you tell the people what we're getting to today?
Yeah, so we're really excited for episode 2 today of Burn City Suns Talk. Today, me and Damian just went to the Suns versus Nuggets game last night after the Big Three didn't play. So we'll tell you of our impressions of that game as well as the rest of training camp and their preseason game 1 from Sunday. Then some discussions after that could include who could be their 5th starter, as well as who will the Suns cut, and just previewing tomorrow night's game 2 as well against the Portland Trail Blazers.
Yes, we have a lot to get into, and let's go ahead and get into it. So you said the early impressions of the Phoenix Suns. What are you seeing after these first 2 preseason games?
Yeah, well, me and you have talked about, it's really tough to judge this team when they're not playing the Big Three, and they rested them all of last night against the Nuggets. So we saw them in a big spurt during week 1, during game 1 against the Pistons in Detroit, and that was a really good spurt to say the least. So just overall, the Big Three looked good when they were playing, but the bench has also looked really good, and all the role players as well. Grayson Allen has been I think the best player on the Suns so far during the preseason. He's gotten a lot of minutes, and he's shown that he can either attack the basket, shoot a 3, guard 1 through 4. So I think he's showing the most promise so far for the Suns.
Ooh, the most promise?
Just out of everyone that's played, No,
I know you're not talking about the Big Three, of course. We're going to exclude Kevin Durant and those guys from that particular discussion. But Josh Okogie showed a lot last night in that game. When you talk about him scoring 17 points, 6 rebounds, only having 1 turnover, and really showing his offensive acumen, going 7 for 13, 3 of 6 from 3, along with lockdown defense. We've already seen him turn defense into offense multiple times in these first 2 games. Grayson Allen's been great. He's been amazing. Like you mentioned, the outside shooting along with his good defense. But he has been kind of turnover prone, had 5 turnovers last night. So you want to avoid that when you have a team that doesn't have a primary playmaker. We've talked about that as far as not having that true point guard. And Grayson Allen's going to have that role sometimes of playmaker. He can't be turnover prone. Okogie's been able to avoid those turnovers along with playing lockdown defense and making his shots. So it's kind of hard to say that Grayson Allen's been the best of those role players so far when Okogie's been so good.
Yeah, it's definitely a debate, and I think I was just more so speaking to Grayson Allen just coming. He's brand new here. We know what Okogie brings to the table. So, but yeah, Okogie has been very impressive. I thought he didn't play that well in game 1, so that's why I would give Allen the edge there. But another Suns newcomer is Jusuf Nurkić, and we saw him against Nikola Jokic last night, and I asked Coach Frank Vogel about how he played Nikola Jokic, the 2-time MVP, after the game. So here's what Coach Frank Vogel had to say. What did you think of Jusuf's defense on Nurkić today? On Jokic today?
Yeah, pretty good. We got crossed up on some of the Joker Murray switches, that we want to do and where we want to switch. We have precise rules on that type of stuff. We got crossed up on some of that, but I thought on the ball he really competed against Jokic, and what I really liked is that we were able to go back at him on the other end. I think he drew 2 fouls on him on post-ups and, played a power post game, which is, it's not a Jokic thing, it's a opponent's best player thing. We always want to make the opponent's best player defend on the other end, however that looks. And I thought Jusuf did a great job of that.
Yeah, I have to agree with Frank Vogel there that Nurkić did do a great job of playing against Jokic last night. Jokic went 4 for 11 from the field, 0 for 3 from the three-point line. You definitely do not see Jokic have an inefficient night like that. And if you can have Nurkić bother Joker like that in that way in important times, regular season, maybe in the playoffs, that could be the key to the Suns maybe getting to the finals like you think they're going to do, or it could be the key to them losing the Western Conference Finals like I think they're going to do.
Yeah, I think that tandem of Eubanks and Eubanks as well on top of Nurkić. Both of those guys, I think, are going to bring. I mean, the Suns had a really good center combination last year with Ayton, Biyombo, and Jock Landale. So I think, once again, they're going to have that with these two guys in particular. And also Bol we saw last night. Fans love Bol, so he could be another player that could play the 5 for the Suns. But just overall, I'm really excited to see how Nurkić and Eubanks play. And I thought Nurkić did a much better job yesterday than he did in Game 1 against the Pistons. I thought he struggled a little bit to start out that game, but he seems to be really coming into his own here now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, in that first game, like you mentioned, there were times defensively where it felt like Detroit was able just to get to the rim, and they didn't really fear what was coming when Nurkić was there. With Eubanks, there is the fear of a shot blocker there, where he can deter shots, and he makes you think about it. As someone who fancied himself as a basketball player at one time in my life, when you go into the rim and there's somebody there who can really block that shot and embarrass you, send it out of there and say, give me that, that makes you think about it when you go to the rim. Nurkić doesn't have that, but Nurkić is strong. And you started against Joker. And I think that in certain matchups, you mentioned this in our last Burn City short, where you say Eubanks may be able to get starting time over Nurkić in certain matchups because of his shot blocking ability and also his ability on the pick and roll.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another dynamic of the Suns this year, we talked to Eric Gordon and Bradley Beal today about it in practice, is how they don't really have a true ball handler, true point guard. Yeah. I asked Bradley Beal today in practice about how that dynamic is without having a true point guard. And after, especially Grayson Allen stepped up last night with 7 assists total. So I just think seeing those role players, like Bradley Beal mentions here, is going to be big for the Suns to have them be unselfish players. What do you think about the guys stepping up in different ball handling roles? I mean, you saw Grayson Allen had 7 assists. So what does that say about
City Suns talk.
We're unselfish. I think that's anybody's out to be, oh, this is my show, this is my thing. Like, we play off of each other. We get the energy of seeing other guys succeed and seeing guys, have fun with this game. And so it doesn't surprise me to see that from G. It doesn't surprise me to see it from anybody, because we have that kind of mindset that it's a open ball handling. It's not just one guy to play the point. It's not just one guy to ball. We're all capable. We all have to know multiple spots. So it's a good thing.
So if you were not able to hear that because of the music in the background, he basically was talking about how this team has so many different people that can handle the ball and how they can just run their offense in different ways. And then I went on to ask him right after Brendan asked his question about his approach to the pick and roll and how he thinks about it when he looks at the defense and what he's looking for as far as making his next move. So I think that this team has so many people who can handle the rock. And you talked about Eric Gordon answering that question as well, how he doesn't believe they need a true point guard. Is that a worry that you have, that this team doesn't have the quote-unquote true point guard like they had last year with Chris Paul?
I think it can be a problem, especially late game situations. I think that's where it will be the biggest problem if they need. But they have 3 guys that can get it done. So the problem becomes can they find those guys? Is our Booker and Beal, who will be playing in those situations, are they going to be willing to be unselfish in those kind of late game scenarios where they need a basket and they need to find the right guy? So I think that's where the problem will arise. But throughout the course of a game, I think they have the arsenal of players that can get it done. I mean, like you mentioned, Eric Gordon, I asked him that today because he's been playing a lot of backup point guard. They have Jordan Goodwin. He hasn't played. He's supposed to come back tomorrow. We'll talk about that later. But I just think they have the arsenal of players to get it done in that area. But I think it could pose some problems in late game situations.
Do you think Saben Lee can be that true point guard to maybe come off the bench and provide that for them?
Yeah, so just going off Saben Lee, he started last night. I think he played the most minutes on the team as well. So Saben Lee was huge for the Suns yesterday. He had 9 assists as well. So he talked about how he's talked with Coach Frank Vogel about being a defensive guy, kind of a campaign role, bringing the energy off the bench. I don't know. I think he's been a little bit inefficient when he's played, but that also could be due to the fact he's not going to be playing with this group of guys that he's playing with. So it's hard to judge his performance, but just defense and energy, if those are the two hallmarks of what Vogel wants to see out of him, he's been doing a terrific job with those two things.
For sure. Last night you mentioned 9 assists, only 3 turnovers. So you love a 3-to-1 assist turnover ratio for your point guard. And if he is somebody who can come in and just fulfill that role when maybe the team is getting stagnant and you need somebody to set the lineup up or set the plays up to have this team roll smoothly, he can be that guy for him. You mentioned Jordan Goodwin. Hopefully we see him tomorrow night against the Portland Trail Blazers. Maybe he can have an amazing performance. The next thing you know, we're saying Jordan Goodwin's going to be that guy to be the point guard for these guys in these situations. So we mentioned how this team doesn't have a true point guard, but they have so many playmakers. And in the second game, we didn't see those playmakers that we talked about, right? So who stood out outside of Grayson Allen in that second game for you?
In terms of being a playmaker?
In terms of just in general.
Well, I think in both games, another guy that stood out is Yuta Watanabe. He's been his shot. I think outside the big three, he has the prettiest shot on the team. So, just his stroke looks so pretty from outside, and it's just like when you have that guy alongside a big three, and his shot just looks unguardable. I mean, that just poses so many problems for the opposing team. And then not to mention is, I didn't know what Yuta would bring defensively. He's done a great job, especially off the ball, getting a lot of deflections, just guarding guys, shielding the ball away from them. So I think Yuta's been a big piece he could be a big piece for what the Suns do. And like we mentioned, he's been playing better and ahead of Keita Diop, which I think is an interesting developing situation.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting battle when it comes to the rotation. But we got to talk about the main battle. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. There seems to be 2 guys who are in contention for that 5th starter spot. Who do you believe out of Josh Okogie and Grayson Allen should be the 5th starter alongside Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Durant, and Nurkić?
Yeah, so, I mean, like we mentioned earlier, both guys have been arguably the 2 best players during the preseason so far. And that's due to the fact that Vogel wants to see them battle for this 5th spot. So he's getting them a lot of minutes and putting them in as like the number 1 option basically when they're out there. So they're both taking advantage of it. I mean, Grayson Allen, he knows he's not going to be the guy that attacks a basket every time, which he has been doing in the preseason. But in my opinion, I think right now they should start Okogie just because of how well Allen's been playing. They need that off the bench, especially in terms of a playmaking situation. I know you said he had 5 turnovers, but he also had 7 assists, and he's proven that he can bring that offensive spark as well as on defense.
I definitely agree with you on that one. I think Josh Okogie should be the 5th starter because he is dynamic on defense. Grayson Allen is a good defender. Don't get me wrong. He's not somebody who you would call a cone out there, right? He's not somebody who you would just go around. But Josh Okogie can lock you down. And when you have a lockdown defender who's also hitting his 3-point shots the way he is right now in the preseason, if that continues in the regular season, there's no one who you can leave alone, right? So when you're playing basketball and there's somebody out there who really can't shoot, you might hear something like, "He with us." Oh, leave him out there. You don't need to guard him. You can't do that with Josh Okogie now because he is hitting those threes. So if you can't do that to Okogie, Nurkić is down low. He can bang down there and get points. You already know what the big 3 can do. This offense in the starting 5 could be unstoppable. And then you mentioned bringing Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, and Watanabe off the bench. This lineup is going to be absolutely nuts if they start with that way of having a defender like Okogie to start and then bringing in the offense of Gordon, Allen, and also Yuta as well.
Yeah, just the only problem with Okogie is we saw it down the stretch last year. He talked a little bit about it last night, is how much he struggled from deep, especially in the playoffs and late in the season. So can he show that he's better in that area? If not, I wouldn't. If he does not show that he's an improved shooter, then I would go with Yuta instead of Allen as that 5th starter, just because of the way that Yuta's been playing defense as well, and they need a shooter alongside this big 3. They they can't have someone that's shooting. I don't even know what he said. Like he shot like 2 of his last 20 from deep last year. So it's going to be, you can't have that in this dynamic of a lineup. But you need a good shooter. So is Josh Okogie all the way improved? I don't know. I mean, he looks like it right now, but we'll see when the big lights come on.
No, for sure. That's definitely different. When shooting in preseason, you feel relaxed. Your muscles are there. It didn't come, regular season, postseason, get a little tense. You had that shot go up and your hands are shaking. So it's definitely different then. So I think you make a very good point when it comes to Okogie, and we'll see during the regular season. I think he'll win the starting spot. But, of course, this team is versatile. Frank Vogel's a versatile coach, so we could see that change throughout the regular season. And, of course, we know that we'll have injuries and things like that, unfortunately. So we'll see the lineup change a lot, and we'll see these different players play alongside others in different lineups. But speaking of the roster, unfortunately, it's not finalized, and you have to make 2 cuts. And I'm saying we because I feel like I'm part of the Suns on this podcast. But we have to make 2 cuts. And who are the players that you think are up on the chopping block?
So for me right now, I would say Ish Wainwright, Keon Johnson. Those are the 2 names that have been reported by Yahoo to be those initial guys that they think could be cut, as well as Damian Lee, who just suffered an injury. And then Jordan Goodwin, which I don't think he would get cut, but his contract's not fully guaranteed, so it wouldn't be hard to let him go. But those are the 4 guys, in my opinion, that are up for those last few spots.
Yeah, man, and I don't take this subject lightly because you never want to seem like you're calling for somebody's job, right? This is something that these are their livelihoods. This is what they want to do for a living. And unfortunately, you can lose your job to injury. And we haven't seen Ish Wainwright. And when you think about the lineup, we just mentioned Keita Diop, Yuta. You talk about all the wings that this team has, including Okogie. Where does Wainwright fit in at? Right? He's somebody who struggled with his shot before. He's strong, good defender. But we have that when you think about Base Diop, Okogie, Allen being a good defender, Yuta being a good defender. So Wainwright being a good defender and a sometimes decent shooter seems like he's going to find himself on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and just while you're talking about that, another name that popped in my mind in terms of a wing is Nasir Little.
Yeah.
He's not on a veteran minimum contract like these other guys are, so he makes a little bit more money. But is Wainwright better than him? That's because he's so new and he's young. So I think that's actually an interesting position to watch. Because I don't think Nasir's had some big shots. I just don't know if he's shown what people thought he was capable of on the defensive end so far.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be an interesting battle as well. But just going on my personal thoughts, I think it should be what has been reported of Ish and Keon. I don't know. We don't know much about Damian Lee. I actually caught up with Damian Lee at the ASU versus Colorado game. He was out there taking pictures. So he seemed in good spirits, but Damian Lee it's tough to know with him because he has a right meniscus injury, and we don't know the timetable for how long he'll be out.
Yeah, it's tough. So you're talking about 2 players who could essentially lose their job to injury, and you never want to see that. But this is a tough business. The NBA is the best of the best, and sometimes, even the ones who are very good don't make it. And hopefully, the guys who do get cut find themselves on a different roster in the league. And we say that all the time, where some of you could show good tape in preseason, or you could have, just a good run in the practices and training camp, and maybe your coach puts out a word to another coach out there and they get picked up. So hopefully whoever gets cut does get picked up by another squad and gets another chance out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, just they're stacked from top to bottom. I mean, we talked about it. All those guys that they put out look good. We didn't even see Udoka Azubuike last night, and Frank Vogel's praised him. So that just tells you, like, the coach might like you. When he plays everyone else and he doesn't play you, you're the last man on the bench, and the coach still loves you. I mean, that's just a crazy thing to think about for sure. So, yeah, just going into the next topic, the Suns play tomorrow in Portland against DeAndre Ayton, Tumani Kamara, who both had good games yesterday for the Blazers. So that'll be their 3rd preseason matchup. They enter that game 1-1. The Blazers enter it 1-0. So what do you think about that matchup?
Well, of course, all of the talk is going to be Suns going against their former player DeAndre Ayton. Ayton versus Nurkić. Does Ayton show up and say, I do believe it is a downgrade going from Ayton to Nurkić because of the talent that Ayton has, how Ayton is younger and also been more durable over the last few years. But I think that Nurkić is the better fit. And hopefully we get to see a full team for the Suns. Frank Vogel said today that it will decide tomorrow if that the big three will be decided tomorrow. Despite the reports that have been going out there, we don't know. He said it at practice that they're going to decide tomorrow, and then people just said, oh, they're playing. Like, what? Like, how did that happen? So we don't know if they're going to play or not. But if they do, we're going to see a very good game. I think we're going to see a spirited game because you can't not have your emotions in that, right? It's impossible to not say, okay, I'm going against my former team in back-to-back games, a home and home. I want to show them what they're missing. I want to show them that I was capable of being a big piece of a championship picture. And I think Aiden's going to bring that tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think I know Aiden's a big story, but Toumani Camara also, I saw some of his highlights from yesterday. He looked really good, too, for the Blazers. So I think both of them, I mean, Suns fans liked Camara when he was here in the Summer League. He became, quickly a fan favorite. So even though he didn't play any games in the preseason or regular season for the Suns, I think fans liked him as well. But, yeah, obviously Aiden's the big headliner, and then Keon Johnson, Jusuf Nurkić, and Nasir Little going back to Portland. And those first two guys, Keon Johnson and Nasir Little, are probably going to get big minutes. So we'll see how they do against their former team. And because I know those guys were kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum from Ayton, where they didn't really want to leave Portland. They just were a part of the trade. So they had nothing but love for the organization. So I don't know if it's really the prove-it game for them, but they need to prove it for the Suns.
No, for sure. They got to prove for the Suns to get in the rotation and get on the roster in certain standpoints. So tomorrow's game is definitely going to be one that is going to be entertaining, more entertaining than your normal preseason game for sure. But I feel like we have gotten to the end of the episode. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about today?
Yeah, I forgot about this Josh Okogie clip that we had from last night as well. He had a funny response to my question to him. So here's the clip from Josh Okogie. Josh, it looked like you were pretty upset there in the third quarter, but then you went on, you scored 7 straight points. So how much confidence did that give you in that third quarter?
I was just upset defensively, 'cause I just know it was certain things that was going. I ain't trying to get fined in the preseason, but I just know it was certain things. I was like, man, I didn't foul him, or I was trying to tell him he hooked my arm, but they were just. I mean, but it's preseason, but it's preseason for the referees too. You know, they're getting used to running those 2-3 miles a game, 4 miles a game, and they probably haven't done that, all summer. You know what I'm saying? So it was just getting that passion back and just getting that. I really wasn't even mad at them. I was just trying to, get in the game, get some fire to the team.
Just a kind of principle thing as a defensive guy when you get whistled for a call.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's cool.
Thanks,
Have a good night.
Not in preseason.
You were good there. You were good.
No fines in preseason.
I hope I don't get fined.
Yeah, so there you saw from Josh. That was just a good way to end last night. I mean, he was the last one to go. So that's how we wrapped up the night. So just overall, that was a fun first preseason home game, even though they lost. We saw a lot of promise from them, and I think we'll continue to see it from them over the next 3 games in the preseason.
Oh, for sure, man. You got to respect Josh Okogie for, having this Marshawn Lynch moment. We're not in studio. We'll be doing a Burn City Suns Talk short where we'll be coming to you right after the games, giving you our instant reactions. Also follow Burn City Sports for all things Arizona sports. So we got you on Suns. We got great writers that got you covered on the Diamondbacks, on the Cardinals, everything Arizona State, the Coyotes, Phoenix Rising. We do it all here when it comes to Phoenix sports. So make sure you follow Burn City Sports on all social media platforms. And where can they follow you, Brendan?
Yeah, so you can follow me on X at Brendan_Mao.
You can follow me on all social media platforms at The Real Deal WDA. That's The Real Deal, W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, and A as in Alpha. So make sure you tell your friends, your family, the people you don't like and the people you do like about Burn City Suns Talk, coming to you live every week on Burn City Sports YouTube channel. And until next time, peace.
All the ladies from coming to the Suns and starting information and getting it done. For Phoenix Sports, they #1. Kinda like Booker, yeah, they on the rise. Come and see it's all things Phoenix. Varsity Suns, thought we going live.